Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Alberta Freemason podcast. I'm Preston Meyer, past Grand Chaplain a couple years ago, and currently the editor of this production.
Hi, my name is John Hayes. I will be going in as Worshipful Master of Highlands Unity Lodge 168 in November, and I'm a past master of the lodge, coming on 20 years since the last time I did that. I also, in the past, have served as the Sovereign Grand Master of the Allied Masonic Degrees of Canada and a large number of other offices, which I will fail to note today.
Right Worshipful Brother Tobias Terrill, past DDGM for Chinook Arts District, member of Charity Lodge number 67 in Lethbridge, and I belong to a number of different concordant bodies on the York Rite side, and I'm the current governor for the York Rite Diversity College of the York Rite Sovereign College of North America in Lethbridge as well.
Right Worshipful William Brook, past DDGM of the Athabasca District. I'm currently Former Murray Lodge 195 and the Secretary Treasurer there.
All right. So I wanted to talk today about visitation, and I feel like I've got a good collection of guys here who get out and visit. Why?
Why do
What
we
is it
visit?
about visiting? Yeah, why do
Wow.
you visit?
There's a number of reasons. Go ahead, Tobias. Why don't you kick this?
To me, when we look at Freemasonry as a fraternal order, and as old as we are, one of the true secrets is visitation, is this ability that we can travel anywhere in the world and be greeted and welcomed as a brother. So why we visit is for the fellowship and for that camaraderie and connection with people elsewhere. No matter where you are, you can just immediately be connected.
So I jotted down a couple notes. So, like, visiting another lodge is a rich and rewarding experience that offers many benefits to Masonic brothers. It's an opportunity to experience brotherly love, to be welcomed into an open and welcoming environment, and enjoy good food and good conversation, and to gain a greater understanding of the fraternity. By visiting another lodge, Masonic brothers can deepen their commitment to the principles of Masonry and strengthen the bonds of brotherhood that unite them. It is a cornerstone of Freemasonry to go out and visit. There's many aspects to it. Some people call it networking. I think it just furthers those whole bonds of Freemasonry, and Masons are men who consider each other a brother. So if you're a brother, you need to build that bond, and you build that bond by visiting. Whether you're going out to lodge. After going out to lodge, you can go to other lodges. You can stay within the jurisdiction. You can go outside of the jurisdiction.
Sure. Yeah. Like for me, we all talk about this idea where we cannot talk business, politics, or religion at our meetings. And so you take away that stuff and we get down to the fundamentals of getting to know each other. So just as you've done, Bill, when you travel, you get to meet someone, and you're not talking politics, you're not talking religion, you're just talking about the history, and you're getting to know that person. And that's that, back to that brotherhood, that we have this instant connection that can kick us off and create a bond that just extends on further, and we get a deeper connection. I was down in Memphis, and I didn't get a chance to visit any brothers down there, but everywhere you go, everybody wants to talk politics, or they want to talk about current events or different things like that. And I just wish people would take some of that stuff off the table a little bit and be less intrusive in terms of trying to offend everyone.
Yeah, it does seem like the online grievance world has really extended into the real world now, and we're protected from that by Masonic barriers against discussing politics and religion, at least in a respectful way. I've traveled a fair bit. I don't think I know, when I visited a lodge anywhere, what the politics or the religion are of the brethren I've got to know. And that gives us the ability, as Tobias said, to get past that and talk about stuff that is more personal. Because when you get rid of politics and religion, what you do is you strip away a couple of veils, and that allows you to actually talk about things that matter to you personally, your kids, your family, you know, where you spend time, what you like to do. And a lot of that is thrown away when someone walks up and says, "What do you think about Donald Trump?" I mean, that immediately every barrier in the universe goes up for either the pro-Trump or the anti-Trump people. You can't communicate to somebody who is right on the same page as you are. And, you know, Canadians were a little less volatile about our politics, but not much. And I think this is a really good opportunity for people to, you know, get to know the actual human being behind the convenient label communist, fascist, whatever they're yelling at each other.
Well, I know when we were planning this, Preston, we talked about local visitation as being the focal point. I've probably been to one of the craziest places you can imagine and had held lodge, but I attended lodge in Jerusalem in October of 2018, and walking in there, having language barriers, having all kinds of barriers that you can imagine. Walked in there, sat down in lodge. It knew exactly what was going on, even though I didn't know the language. Could tell exactly what was what, no matter what, even though I didn't really know. Sat down, had a wonderful fellowship afterwards, and made some strong, lasting connections still to this day that I connect with. You know, some of them almost weekly, and it's just an amazing thing. So, you know, you look at regional traveling here. Well, within our jurisdiction here, of course, I've got a fair distance to cover, but to travel, you know, could mean upwards of 2 hours. Now, I know that might be different for, say Bill or someone else, but for me to travel, it means I'm making a commitment to extend out and to see somebody, and that also means that they see that and they're going to make that attempt to come and visit me. And that again goes back to what John said. It's strengthening the ties.
Yeah, and absolutely. Like when you go to another lodge, they're always welcoming with open arms. They make you feel at home. You know, they engage you, they bring you in, they make you as comfortable as possible. So I mean, as part of that, like you don't want to get into those hard conversations, whether it be religion or politics or whatever the case may be, because there's a proper way of discussing those things and an improper way of discussing them, but um, it tends to lead into the negative for the most part, and that's why you kind of want to steer away from it, because you don't want the visit to become a negative experience, or you know there's a conflict there. And you're right, like the amount of traveling, like the Athabasca district alone, because being from Fort McMurray, uh, we would have lodges that we'd have to visit at the DDGM in Edmonton. So you're doing a 5 hour drive to either it's a fraternal or official visit. You still got to, you know, it's part of your obligation as a DDGM to do those visits there. But yeah, like it's enriching. And then the thing of it too is that you get these other experiences, and some of those experiences and some of the way that you see other lodges conduct themselves and conduct the work, you can bring that back to your lodge.
Mm.
And
That's
then
sorry, Bill. That's exactly one of the things that I wanted to highlight. It exactly um, creates a great feeling in your lodge when you can go back and you can say, "Hey, at Lodge A, Lodge B, and Lodge C, they did this cool thing," and you know that's one of the little gaps in our lodge. Let's make our lodge a little better. Or they did this, we don't, but maybe we should do this. Or and you're allowed by visitation, you get all these great opportunities to in a sense try stuff
Mhm.
before you buy stuff. And I mean, you're there with no real obligations, and the only obligation you have is don't review it. Don't say something about it, but you walk away with ideas that you can import to your lodge or import to your personal Masonic practice, and it allows you to have both enrich your personal Masonic life, but also your lodge's life if you're in a position of leadership of any kind. And all Masons should be leaders in their lodges.
Yeah. Now I'll pose a question here. I'll preface that with what I did last week visiting a lodge up in Calgary. I had been invited by another DDGM or a current DDGM to go to his mother lodge as he was doing his official visit, and just to be there to support him. So, off we went. But before that, I contacted the lodge, let them know that I was coming, and obviously let him know that I was coming as well. We arrived early. We were greeted. It was expected that we were coming. They gave us a tour of the lodge, which was wonderful experience. We weren't able to catch the festive board, but when the meeting was over, everybody dispersed, and we were just kind of sitting there left, and we were like, okay, that's it. So my question to you is, so first of all, is there a proper way to let a lodge know that you're visiting? And second of all, is there some expectations on your end in terms of what you should attend if you're visiting a lodge?
I'm gonna say that if you're visiting a lodge, you really should attend the festive board.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great things that happen in the meeting. You may get to participate in a discussion if the opportunity allows for it in the meeting, but the ritual portions don't allow for a whole lot of you standing up and sharing what's on your mind. The festive board is where you get to do that. That's where you're gonna have the best opportunity to make connections with people, I think.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and to your other point, like you should be notifying whichever lodge you're going to go visit that, hey, give them a heads up that you're planning on attending the lodge and everything, so at least they're aware that you're going to show up. It's just not like a surprise visit. And then within the jurisdiction, there's a lot of leeway. So if you want to visit lodges throughout Alberta, typically you give them a heads up, you show up to the lodge, you have your dues card. They might vet you, but it's kind of an informal vetting at that point. But if you're going to do visiting outside of the jurisdiction, that's when you have to connect with the Grand Secretary. He's got to provide a letter from the Grand Lodge so that you can visit. Typically, they want to know where you're going to visit, so that say you're going to go to Virginia, they'll have a little blurb in there for you visiting Virginia. And typically, the Grand Secretary of Alberta will reach out to the Grand Secretary of Virginia to let them know that you're coming, type of thing. So there's a real formal process when it comes to like visiting outside of the jurisdiction. But within the jurisdiction, I think it's just what word am I trying to think of?
It's a bit more relaxed.
It's relaxed, but it's just you're giving them a heads up. You're being a little more cordial about it.
it's a courtesy.
Courtesy. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You're going to be there.
And part of that courtesy too, Bill, is that you end up wanting to talk to someone and make sure that if you're going to the festive board, they have enough food. Planning on, if you go to one of the city lodges, they're maybe planning on 25 or 30 people. But if you go out to one of the country lodges, they might be planning on serving food to 5 or 8, that kind of really a fairly small number. I've gone to a lodge where there were 7 and the two of us made 9. If you're bringing food for 7 or 8, 10, visitors can really change the number by a significant percentage. If there were 5 of us who just showed up to a lodge with 7 people, that would, double the amount of food they need, and they might not have that planned.
Now,
Yeah.
it's been a while since I've seen one, but there used to be a book in every lodge or out in the foyer that would have all of our sister jurisdictions are those that are recognized by us. And in there would be the directions on how to visit. So, for example, my family and I were going to go attend, we were going to go to Maui, and I was going to try to attend lodge in Maui. And because Maui is such a high tourist area, there's an official process, and it has to literally go, up through the Grand, just as you've specified, Bill, up through the Grand Secretary, over to, Hawaii, down to the secretary of that lodge, and it had to be brought up in lodge. And if you were approved at that stage, then you would be approved to attend that meeting. So that process could take easily months and months. So if you're planning, you've got to plan that well in advance of just throwing an apron in a suitcase and traveling off with your family and hoping that you're going to catch a lodge night. Now, I haven't seen one of those books in quite some time. However, I do think that the Amity app will help circumvent some of that as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they stopped publishing those books about 2018. But the Amity app has kind of replaced it. I don't know that it's got directions, but if you look up a lodge and the lodge has specific requirements, it may have them listed. And the other thing is it should provide contact and minimal, but some contact information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that Amity app that was the intent of it, is to replace the list of lodges book that we used to always have.
Mm-hmm.
The last one I remember seeing is 2020. I haven't seen one since. So I think that is the Grand Lodge's intent, is to use the Amity app instead of publishing those books, because there's a cost to that, right? So if you can save funds by not having to do that and use the app, it's probably, fiscally responsible on their part. The other thing I was going to mention too is that when you are visiting and you want to go to the festival board and everything, make sure you bring money.
Yeah.
Even if the festival board is by donation, or if they have libations there and it's by donation, make sure that you do bring money, and then you're not financially burdening the lodge that you visit to actually eat or have some drinks. So
yeah, that's a great point too. A few weeks ago, I was in lodges. They were presenting a Master Mason's certificate, and it was a past Grand Master that was doing it. And one of the tips he said was, of course, first of all, sign your certificate, which we all are well versed in. But then he said, secondly, go and photocopy it. And he says there will be lodges that you will want to visit that will require you to have your Master Mason certificate with you, or a photocopy. So if you've got it copied before you frame it, then you're good to go. But many of the ones that I visited, it's as simple as a few questions through the vetting process, or knowing things like the Tyler's, the charge, and things like that will help get you through.
Again, traveling with phones, you can have a picture of all your certificates as required, and you can share them with people that way. They don't. I've never seen anyone needing a hard copy of anything. They just need to see it, and of course, you can share it. You can send it to them, and they will then have it.
At the bare minimum, when you're vetting a visitor, you have to make sure that you're not going to reveal any secrets in the course of the meeting, which is annoying when you've got somebody who forgets what degree you're in and uses the wrong sign. It's almost impossible to prevent that, though. But if you're just going to open up in the first and you've got a visitor, all you really need to check is, do they already know the secrets of the first degree? And all right, you're not going to learn anything. Come on in. That's the bare minimum. I feel like bare minimum is not always actually best.
well,
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
yeah, because it's funny, because being like in Fort McMurray, there's a huge transitory community that just comes up here to work. So we will get Masons from across the country, from the other side of the world, that actually come in and to the lodge and want to visit and everything. So there is there is a vetting process. They might not hit everything that you ask them because every place is a little bit different. Some of the standard questions, like, what was the cost of your slipper? What's the age of your mother? Like all of those typical type of questions that you would ask. Most of the guys know that stuff. There's a couple that don't. And then honestly, like if you ask them to recite the Tyler's Oath, I don't even think I could do that.
Yeah. I think another advantage to visiting, pulling us back just a little bit, is the advantage that a lot of us join a lodge where we might make good friends with one or two of the many men who are in that room. And maybe there's other weaknesses in that lodge too, but that they don't meet all of the things you were hoping to find in that space. Visiting is a great way to find more people that you like and to find more things that you like about masonry. Masonry is a lot of things to a lot of people, but we're not all great at all of the things all of the time. So visiting is a really great way to expand that experience. It's a lot easier when you're in the city than in the country, where you have to drive a little while to find another lodge that may or may not even meet those requirements that you were hoping to satisfy. It's a little easier in a city where you've got 20 lodges, but visiting is the only way to really get the full Masonic experience, I think.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. Visiting is a key element to what we do. Yeah.
The joining process is one of joining blindly. You join Lodge 555 just by sheer chance. And visitation allows you to take part in the Masonic lives of all the other lodges that you're able to reach. And that's a great way of enriching the Masonic experience of each of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And visitation really is the cornerstone of Freemasonry. It builds those bonds of brotherhood. And then when you do go visit, the other thing that some people will take away is, man, like our lodge does this really well.
Yeah.
Or our lodge, we could work on that, whatever that is. So it helps you gauge at what level and where you're kind of at with your own lodge when you compare it to other lodges when you go visit as well. And if you never visited, you would think that everything that you're doing is right and proper and everything. And you might find that, you go to a degree, man, we ran our degree completely different than what these guys are. So then all of a sudden it starts to trigger stuff, right? Are we doing this right? You're going to start asking probing questions. And maybe you found out that, we weren't doing that right very well. We missed a couple steps here, or whatever the case may be. Or you find out that the lodge that you visited missed a couple steps that they should have actually done. So it's at the end of the day, it's very enriching for personal enrichment as well as for your lodge.
For sure. Now, can we talk a little bit about the Weekend Without Titles 3.0 that is coming up in March, and how that can create a fantastic opportunity to visit brothers from all over the place, not have to worry about titles, have massive amounts of enrichment, good value, solid value on attending, and the whole weekend is worth every penny just on the fellowship and the fraternal bonds.
Yeah, and I agree with that one. I've been to the last two, and they've been excellent. The format, the way that it's conducted, has just been stellar. I'd love to see, everybody in the jurisdiction take the time to go to that. Like the last couple of years, it has grown. It's all about bringing Boots down and having that hospitality room.
Oh,
Yeah.
Boots is great.
They're getting those keynote speakers coming in from all around that deliver a really unique type of message. Especially like I believe there's one from New York coming this time.
Yeah, Oscar Alain. He's a friend of mine actually.
So you get a different perspective, when they come from a different, whether it's different state, different jurisdiction, or whatever, you get a different perspective on what they think Masonry is and how they were brought up in Freemasonry. So it's yeah, I find it very enriching.
Perspective is really valuable. That what you see in your own lodge, if you never visit, you will think that that's normal and that all lodges are the same. But you get out the door and you visit somewhere else, and you can see some really great diversity and excellence in the craft.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
that you see your bubble start to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you start to see Freemasonry on a whole different level when you start to travel. Now, one other thing I'll just mention is there is a bit of an onus on the lodges to ensure that their information on when they tile, what they have going on, and things like that are out there and known and able to be known to the brothers. So whether it's through an Amnesty app, through a Facebook page, through some sort of a website, we're fortunate we have the Grand Lodge of Alberta, but not every lodge on their information is accurate. So I would encourage lodges out there to check their information, make sure it's correct and valid.
not enough brethren understand the excitement of visitation. If you have 5,000 Freemasons in Alberta, the visitation are probably done by 10% of that, if not less, 500 or 300. And the other Freemasons really are missing the boat on one of the more enriching parts of the craft. Maybe we should stress through this podcast just how important it is to take time 2 or 3 times a year to visit another lodge, even if you're not used to doing it, because it really does enrich your experience in the craft and it makes Masonry better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're one of those guys who visits a lot, take out somebody from your lodge who doesn't.
If we don't encourage our new members to go out and visit, if we don't take the new candidates, the new entered apprentices, or the new Master Masons to other lodges, we're training them not to visit. If we basically leave it on their plate and say, Andres, visitation is the best thing you'll ever do. And then there's huge barriers to getting people to do things that are outside their comfort zone. And possibly you're absolutely right in the suggesting that we should take, especially our newest members, but also the members who don't visit, and drag them out, call them and say, hey, Tobias, I'm going to lodge in 2 days. You want to come with me?
Before we break, I want to share some topically adjacent news. After our newly approved efforts to extend amity to Prince Hall affiliated Grand Lodges, the Fraternal Relations Committee, led by fairly recent past Grand Master Chris Uckman, has made positive connections with several Prince Hall Grand Lodges. And amity has recently been extended and reciprocated with California and Hawaii. That brings us to 14 friendly Prince Hall Grand Lodges in the United States of America. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Alberta Freemason, with voices from across Alberta and music from our grand organist, very worshipful brother Lardeon Ranon. Happy to meet, sorry to part, happy to meet again.